Welcome on in here to the NBA Tip-Off Show, and happy St. Valentine's Day to you. If you didn't realize by now, nope, Joe Ranieri, we were talking before the show, the most romantic man in the world, he wasn't working here on a Valentine's Day special. Hell no, but we love you. So we have three great guests here, and I'm Dan Alexander holding it down. We're going to get you contrarian plays. As always, a little featured breakdown, do a little overtime before we check in with some dogs and some best bets. And doing it with me, you see them there, Bryan Power, Andy Lang, and Rob Vino. Gentlemen, I say we get right into the action. People have dinner reservations they got to get to. So let's talk the contrarian play of the day. Even when Joe isn't here, we consult the oracles, and they have told us the LA Clippers taking on Golden State, and the market disagrees, as it often does, with the contrarian dogs. We're now looking at a 3.5, while you see 3 on the screen. And the Warriors, they're streaking, boys, 5 in a row as they're heading into the finale of this 4-game series throughout the season here with the Clippers. Last time they played was actually back in December, so the first time that they're playing this year. Contrarian gods, man, they're looking to make Steve Kerr wait for his 500th win. What do we think, Bryan Power? Are they right here?
Yeah, I think the market's overreacted to no Kawhi Leonard tonight, which is why we've seen the line shift. The projected starting 5 for the Clippers, Dan, it still outscored teams by 3.5 points per 100 possessions. That's factoring out Leonard. And, with Leonard off the court, Clippers are putting up 121.3 points per 100 possessions. So I think they're going to be fine. I know Golden State has been hot, 8-4 straight up, 9-3 against the numbers since Draymond Green came back from his suspension. They have a plus 7.6 net rating during that time. But you look at who the Warriors have faced, and not a lot of great defensive teams. They got a little lucky Saturday night against Phoenix. I was a little unlucky because I had the Suns in that one. And then Monday in Utah, emotional game, obviously. Steve Kerr out at the funeral. He still got credited with the win, though. You talked about win number 500. He got credited for win number 499, even though he was not on the bench there. The team responded with a real strong effort, as you might think they would. 8 players in double figures. But as hot as Golden State has been, guys, they're not better than the Clippers, even with Leonard out. Golden State is a home favorite, 6-13 against the number. It's a good number to back LA. I usually agree with the contrarian gods, and today's no different.
And even when Joe's not here, and you don't have to get any grief from him, no one was happier than Bryan Power when he saw that I was filling in for our man Joe. But he's still saying, hey, I think the contrarian gods might be on to something. 3.5 with the LA Clippers. Check out Bryan Power over at WagerTalk. And guys, we also have this great deal going on right now. That Sweetheart special. Yeah, it's the first of, or I guess the second of many horrible puns throughout the Valentine's Day show here. You can get 3 days for the price of 1. It's a terrific deal. It ends tonight here at midnight. So when you hear these guys breaking down what they have going, why just get today's plays when you can grab 3 for the price of 1. That's our little thank you to you. A little heart eyes for you on Valentine's Day. Andy, what are you thinking as far as the contrarian gods? We're getting this 3.5, but the contrarian gods point you towards any potential player props here? What are we thinking?
Yeah, I'm in big disagreement with Bryan, unfortunately, and I'm in big disagreement with the contrarian gods. Listen, on Monday, I was on the show, and I said, I see some cracks in the Clippers. They lost in New Orleans. They only beat the Detroit Pistons at home by 6, and then they just got mollywopped by Minnesota on Monday. So I think they're in trouble tonight. This is I mean, it's in California, but it's technically on the road. This is a crazy stat. Do you know Kawhi Leonard's career winning percentage? 73.3. He wins 73% of the games that he starts and finishes.
Crunch the numbers.
It's
that's
crazy. Good. It's crazy. But he's not there tonight. So just to kind of piggyback off the contrarian gods, I like the Clippers under 117.5. The Warriors have held their last 5 opponents to 112 or fewer. Clippers 3 straight games in a row under this total. And here is one thing that does not show up on the stat sheet, Dan. It's the last game for the All-Star break. Mr. James Harden has one foot out of the arena and into the strip club tonight. I do not see a very focused performance from James tonight. Kawhi's out. To me, this screams Warriors big.
Man, I never really want to be fading and bucking the contrarian gods. Andy said he's not afraid of it, but when you factor in fading James Harden, I'm always on board for that. So it makes some sense to me there. We got two guys at odds. One of them riding with the contrarian gods, the other bucking them. You got to break the tie for us, Vino. What are we thinking?
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup, guys, because the contrast is really stark here between these two. Now, for Golden State, obviously the 5-0 in their last five ATS wins, straight up wins. It correlates to Steve Kerr going back to what he used to refer to as the death lineup, right? Draymond's your center. We just outrun people. We play a little bit better defense. It doesn't make a lot of sense that you play a lot of defense when you're that small, but it kind of has worked for Golden State. But will it work here, guys? I mean, just listen to the list of trees that the Clippers can throw at him. Zubac, if you're looking at player props, maybe you want to look his way. Green's his matchup tonight. Come off the bench with Mason Plumlee, another 7-footer. Daniel Tice, another 7-footer. I mean, one side could crush the boards and the other side could crush transition. So it's hard to make a real definitive case for either. I kind of lean into what Andy was saying about the Clippers possibly just, last game before the All-Star break, letting the rope go. No Kawhi. I could see that while Golden State seems to be on an absolute chase for a spot right now in a play-in. They'd love to be better, but they've had to make up so much ground just to get this far. So you think that the motivation is probably with them. That loss to Minnesota by the Clippers the other night was for first place in the Western Conference standings. They got blown out by 12 on their own home floor. That could be a little demoralizing here. I think when these teams meet, there's always a pretty decent focus. I'll put it that way. Focus and motivation put on the game. But I just see it being stronger for Golden State in this one. So the question comes, can Golden State outrun them, or does LA just out second chance point them and kill the boards and get fouled and kill the boards and get fouled? I think the overreaction may have been a bit too strong, so I'm going to side with Clippers plus 3.5 here because they can come off the bench with a lot of potency as far as scoring goes. If it hadn't moved this much, maybe I would have thought the other way, but plus 3.5 just seems like too strong of a move. I'll try Clippers.
Yeah, and it continued moving that way. So we have Andy bucking the contrarian gods, two experts here riding with them. Hop below in the comments and let us know what you think, whether you're watching live or joining us on the replay right before game time. Whenever you're watching, make sure you hit that like button, hit a little subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure that you get notifications for all of the shows that we're doing all morning, all evening long here at WagerTalk and the standalones as well. Get you ready to bet every sport that you know and love. So just hit that little like button. It's not asking too much. Boys, let's move on into the featured matchup. We got Chicago taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. And looking at the WagerTalk Live odds screen, Cavs up to 9-point favorites. Total sitting around 222. There's some differences there. But, guys, if I'm on the show somehow, some way, we have to work in talking about the 76ers because Philly homers, they tend to do that. And Cleveland, they need to start a new streak after my Sixers ended that 9-game streak on Monday. Had nothing to do with a missed three at the buzzer. It was all the Sixers. Come on, folks. Bryan, I'm going to throw it back your way. Get your thoughts here on the featured matchup. Side, total, props. How are you looking at this one?
Yeah, Dan, the Sixers led that game most of the way. So, there was nothing really phony about the result. They played well. This is a game I talked about on Wager Talk today earlier, a very well-produced program, I may add. And this is one we're throwing out the form book yet again because, the Cavs are 17-2 their last 19, even with that loss to the Sixers. But, Andy and Rob talked about it maybe with the Clippers. This is kind of a tricky spot for the Cavs. Awful loss where the winning streak gets snapped, and then they've got the All-Star break, and you're laying a big number. I assume the Cavs are going to win, but you look at last month, these teams played right here in Cleveland. Cavs were at full strength. They closed only -4.5. I get that we've had to upgrade them, but do we upgrade them 5 points? I don't think so. I know the Cavs have won both meetings this year with the Bulls. They've won, I believe, 6 straight overall. You go back to past years, but Monday, when they lost outright to your 76ers, Dan, that was just the 7th time all season the Cavs were asked to lay 9.5 or more at the betting window. They're 2-5 against the number now in that situation. You look at the teams other than the Sixers that they've laid big numbers to, it's the dregs of the league. San Antonio, Washington twice, Detroit twice, and Portland. The Bulls are better than those teams. Bulls have won 3 of 4 overall. They had a nice game against Atlanta on Monday. 4 starters to 20-plus points, 55% shooting overall. Obviously, Cleveland is miles better defensively than Atlanta, but I think the Bulls stay within the number here. This is a client play, actually, for me. I got it at 9.5, peak of the market. I feel good about that. I'd take it all the way down to +8, quite frankly.
Yeah, and with Bry mentioning, okay, in their last 19 games, they've lost 2 of those games, but we're talking about outright wins. We're not talking about laying 9 here against a Bulls team that I'm kind of with you. When you watch them, it's not like they completely fail the eye test for what that's worth. Andy, I want to get your thoughts on this one. As we mentioned, this total sitting around 222. Well, I know you like doing team totals. Anything sticking out to you there? Or you think there's any prop value?
Tough game to handicap, at least for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
at
I
the
got
numbers
a real strong
for sure.
Yeah. There is one. It's a little square, but I think the number is pretty good. DeMar DeRozan over 22.5 points. The guy's been on fire. It's a brutal matchup defensively, but he's gone over in 5 straight games. He's averaging 28.5 points in those games. One of them was against Minnesota, so he did it against a really good team. Really surprised to see this number so low, considering how good he's been. And that, he's the dominant point scorer over the last 5 games for the Bulls. So might take a sprinkle on there. Can't say it's my favorite play on the board, though.
Yeah, well, Andy, I know you love when folks on this channel make timely musical references. So, hey, it might be square, but it's hip to be square. Little Huey Lewis in the News, guys. They're top chart toppers, guys. Come on, folks. So, all right, I don't hate it though. I don't hate the DeRozan play, but I know you always love a good. Was it Carm on Puck Time? Like I don't know if he's listened to
Van
any
Halen.
Song after the 80s. Van Halen.
Van Halen. There was a Van Halen reference.
Yeah. Timely stuff here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. All right, Rob, what are you thinking here for our featured game? We got some love towards the dog. We got some love towards some square props. What does Rob Vino think here?
Well, let me just reference the word square in music, Dan, and I'll go back I guess Carm's around my age bracket, but how about early 80s for those who followed R&B and what was then about to be hip hop? Square Biz by Tina Marie, ex-girlfriend of Rick James. Rick James and Tina Marie spending a lot of time together is it's definitely a world that I don't live in. But yeah, that was a hot tune back in my day.
Well done.
Bulls, Cavs. I like what both of these guys have said. I could make the exact same case that Bryan was making for the Cavs and maybe All-Star break coming. You could make that with the Bulls. This is their 4th road game, the last of a road trip in 7 days. Easy to say let go of the rope right before the break, but some of these teams have more immediate problems in the standing. So you have to look at which ones might have a little more motivation here than the others. The Cavs at this point in time, where the standings are concerned, they've got a pretty firm grip on second place, game and a half ahead here, where the Bulls are still pushing toward getting up into that 7-8 game. So maybe there's a little motivation edge for the Bulls. I think as far as cohesiveness goes, ever since the Bulls have gone to this lineup without Zach LaVine, who, first he's benched, then he's out for the year due to injury. It's been better for them offensively. It's allowed Kobe White to flourish. It's allowed Dosunmu to flourish, and obviously DeRozan leads the way. And again, I'll just go back to a point that we talked about like 7 weeks ago now, and that was Billy Donovan wanting a few more possessions out of his team per 48 minutes and running his offense directly through the middle, Nikola Vucevic. It's worked. This is a good offensive team all of a sudden, even though they don't push up and down in pace. Generally, against the Cavs, I fear their lineup as far as height goes when you combine Mobley and Allen. But listen, this team has Vucevic and Drummond, so I don't know that they're going to get killed on the boards. I think Cleveland's the better side. This is probably right in line with what Brian Power was saying. I think Cleveland's the better side, but I just think the points are too heavy in this matchup where the Bulls have shown us, they didn't make a move at the trade deadline because, according to them, they thought they were good enough to make the playoffs the way they're constructed. So they got belief in themselves. I'll have a little belief in them too and take the 9.5.
I like the breakdown there. I also like the Rick James reference. Sliding that in there. I don't think anyone can hear the name Rick James and not think of the Chappelle Show, though. Like that's a correlated parlay, guys, that cashes every single time. I know we got our man Professor Chris here in the chat. He was making some reference to that as well. So hey, at least it's somewhat timely. Like Chappelle Show was at least like late 2000s. So we're getting there, Andy. We're starting to get into this century. At least. All right, boys, overtime, Lakers, Utah. This one's sitting around 241. We got 240.5. There might be a couple of those out there, but it's been moving up, gentlemen. Lakers and Utah. And Andy, I'm actually going to start with you on this one. Brian, we'll go to you second, just because when I look at this matchup, automatically I think of Anthony Davis. I think of the brow, and I think of the fact that the last time these teams matched up, 5 for 21, the guy was shooting. So maybe he's looking to right the ship here a little bit. Does that name stand out when you think about props, or are you looking down the card a little bit further?
Well, first off, I guess it's a curious game for me that LeBron is sitting out. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. They've been playing well. I know it was a back-to-back, but I don't know. You got the All-Star break, so I figured they would want to try and grab another win right before the All-Star break. But yeah, there is one player prop that sticks out big time. D'Angelo Russell, over 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. The last 3 games without LeBron in the lineup, he's gone for 38, 42, and 50 points, rebounds, and assists. The 50 was against the Utah Jazz. So when LeBron is not there, I guess there's nobody to reel in D'Angelo Russell from firing the ball at will. Because when LeBron is there, he gets the death eye, or LeBron may even go just take the ball out of his hands. But no LeBron, D'Angelo Russell might be like, wow, watch this, guys. Past the trade deadline, can't get rid of me. So he might be firing away. He might be firing away tonight. I like his PRA over.
Man, speaking of the trade deadline, Brian, this Jazz team, they really haven't been the same since then. Lopsided losses, Suns, Warriors, and now, obviously, as Andy mentions, no LeBron James here, which changes the handicap a little bit. But as far as the total goes in this one, anything stand out, or are you attacking this game a little bit different?
Well, just first of all, we talk about these reference, when you mentioned Hip to Be Square earlier, I couldn't be the only person who's thinking about American Psycho, right? I mean, there's nothing like taking an axe to Jared Leto's face, but I guess that's a different story for a different day. Let's talk about Lakers Jazz here. Last time these teams played, you mentioned Anthony Davis's terrible shooting. Well, there were still 263 total points scored in that game, but that came with the help of 63 free throw attempts, 56 of which were made. Do we get that again? Probably not. I know Utah's given up 129 in back-to-back games. You talked about the slide they've been on, Dan, moments ago. I faded them a couple of weeks ago. It was in Brooklyn. I think that kind of started the downturn for Utah. I wasn't a big believer in this team. I was on WagerTalk today. Said I don't expect them to even make the play-in tournament. That's not going to happen. Look, I talked about the game against the Warriors a bit ago. The other game where the Jazz gave up 129 was against Phoenix. Those are 2 quality offensive teams. Obviously, the Lakers, even after they put up 139 against New Orleans, 125 against Detroit last 2 games, still well below Warriors and Suns in offensive efficiency. Trend worth mentioning here, guys. Lakers are 14-1 to the over on the road when the total's 230 or higher. That's in play here. What about 240 or higher? 2-0 to the over, but one of those was a double OT game against the Warriors that would not have gone over without the help of overtime. The other one was against the Hawks, where defense is optional. LeBron, talk about him being out. I don't think we get there to 240.5 here. I would go under on this game.
Under in overtime, says our man Brian Power. Rob Vino, what are you thinking? As we said, it's ticked up, but Brian making a solid case there for the under. We in agreement, or are you guys going at odds again?
Oh, I won't go at odds with Brian Power. Don't worry about that.
Only Joe does. Only Joe does. I guess that's
better
fair.
than to disagree with him. Although I do think that there's an overplay in spot here, a good spot here, Dan, and
Oh,
that's the Utah Jazz home team total over. Now I'm disappointed that it's been raised all the way to 123.5. I mean, I
yeah.
cashed on them last week at 118.5. In that range, they're really nice. Their last 11 home games, 10 of those games have gone over this total, team total. They've scored 124 or better 10 of 11 times. They just get home, they score. And the Lakers, you look at who can defend on that team, and the answer is nobody. Other than Anthony Davis when he feels like it, there's nobody. Rui Hachimura, I guess, can at times be a defender, but that backcourt gets eaten alive each and every night. D'Angelo Russell, we know, had to be benched in the playoffs last year because he can't play defense. Austin Reeves, there was talk of him being traded because he can't play defense. Go to the bench. Spencer Dinwiddie just acquired. Christian Wood plays no defense. They just don't have anybody to stop anybody. All that being said, the Utah Jazz as a team don't stop anybody from scoring. So it'll be interesting. I think Andy mentioned it's an open fire season type of night for D'Angelo Russell. If they fall, he's going to get plenty of opportunities to, cash in points for LA. So I'm a little scared of playing full game total under. But I do think Jazz, even at this price, and there's not a lot of wiggle room. Believe me, like I say, 10 of the last 11, they've hit 124 or better at home. And I think 3 of those are 124. So Golden State held them to 107 their last time out. But I don't know against this. And it's actually weird scheduling game for the Lakers. They come off like 3 home games and now just go play this stray road game before All-Star break. So I can't see their defense being intact here tonight. It's usually never intact, but without LeBron, maybe a little less. Give me Utah team total over 123.5.
See, at the direction of the great Joe Ranieri, I tried to stir up some dramas featuring you, Brian Power, and the class act Rob Bino wouldn't take the bait. Strong job there. And there is a world, guys, where Utah goes over, full game goes under, and in that world, it also correlates with D'Angelo Russell chucking up shots and them not falling. So all 3 takes could be right, albeit different takes here in the overtime game. Guys, one of my favorite parts about filling in here for Joe on the NBA Tip-Off Show is this segment coming up. I know it's some of your guys' favorites as well. It's That's My Dog. Hit it, Robert.
That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. That's my dog. And anybody got to say anything, you let me know. That's my dog.
Talk about timely references. How about the characters on that graphic there, guys? How do we have a That's My Dog segment that doesn't have Bluey on it in 2024? That's my question here. But guys, nice slate of dogs here and a lot of plus prices on the board. I mean, we got as high as plus 13 out there. I don't know if anyone's going to be quite so bold, but as I look down our sheet here, we might have one guy who's liking something that high. Andy, I'm going to let you kick us off since you have the biggest dog on the board. What are we thinking, man?
Classic look-ahead spot for the Celtics. So I'm going to take the Nets plus 13. Listen, not saying the Brooklyn Nets are good. Not saying the Brooklyn Nets are going to win. I'm just saying that they did beat the San Antonio Spurs on Saturday. They did lose at home to Boston, but they only lost by 8. And I'm not really sure what the motivation is for Boston to really lay a whooping on them tonight. So I feel like it's a Boston win, but one of those wins where it doesn't look all that convincing, little uninspired. They pull away in the 4th. But I'll take the Nets, and the back door is always open when you get a plus 13. So give me the Brooklyn Nets as my dog.
13. That's how we start off. That's my dog. And we got some folks here in the chat. We got Cash, Jade Cash asking, anybody like Charlotte tonight? And he's reading our minds because Brian Power is looking that way. Break down why we're eyeing the Hornets tonight, Brian.
Yeah, not a double-digit dog, but about as ugly as it gets when you're taking Charlotte. But this is all about the Hawks being too lousy defensively to lay this many points on the road, guys. Hollinger has Atlanta 29th in defensive efficiency. Now, Charlotte's 30th, but let's not let that get in the way of a good story here because the Hornets have won 2 straight, and they beat both Memphis and Indiana here at home. Miles Bridges, Brandon Miller, you got 2 guys who can put up some points tonight against that sieve-like Hawks defense. The fact that Charlotte has not won 3 in a row this year, Dan, does not bother me too much because since this is the That's My Dog segment, we know they're getting points. like Andy said, hey, I know Charlotte's not good, and they don't have to win. We just need to stay within the number. And Atlanta, in addition to being a league worst 17-37 against the number overall, they're just 7-20 against the number when favored, 1-10 against the number off a double-digit loss. And oh, by the way, they did just get beat by double digits versus Chicago the other night. Charlotte, they played well their last 3 home games, not just the 2 wins. I had them in what was a wire-to-wire cover against Toronto last Wednesday. They probably should have won that game. They completely fell apart in the last 2 minutes. Take the points again tonight. Charlotte Hornets against Atlanta at home.
And Brian doing a terrific job picking the one mistake that we have on our graphic there. We had Atlanta as the dog. It'd be a hell of a middle, boys. If we can get Atlanta +7, take Charlotte +6.5. Let's ride, baby.
Dan, I'll tell you what. You thought about getting points going against 0-26 Detroit Mercy in college was unbelievable. Imagine if you could get 6.5 points going against the Charlotte Hornets tonight in the NBA. That would be the deal of the century for sure.
That would be a true Valentine's special. But the Valentine's special that we have for you guys, you can get 1 day or get 3 days. Why not get the 3 days for the price of one? $39 get you all access from the capper of your choice. And for the free info these guys gave you, I think they're 3 terrific candidates that you can grab. Check out their pages over at WagerTalk. But before you go there, make sure you hit like and subscribe here if you haven't done so far on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. All right, Rob, you're going to get the final dog of the day, and we like all the ugly dogs on the board here today, and you got another entry into that. What are we eyeing here, Vino?
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm not on this panel with Ski Profit because he would stop me from making this play. Stop friends from doing crazy things, but he's a hell no Sacramento guy. And tonight I'm just going to take a shot with Sacramento here, +5.5 against the Nuggets. A lot of reasons why. Of course, the number is what it is because of the back-to-back with Sacramento. But when you consider Denver's entire backcourt out for this game, no Jamal Murray, no KCP, your 2 best 3-point shooters volume-wise, well, not percentage-wise, because I guess Justin Holiday is a little bit better percentage-wise, but he doesn't shoot nearly the amount of threes those other 2 guys shoot. You're going to replace it with Reggie Jackson and Justin Holiday, go to the bench, you reach for Christian Braun, Peyton Watson. It's all right. It's not De'Aaron Fox. It's not Kevin Huerter and these guys. And before we question Sacramento on back-to-backs, they've only been in this spot 3 times all year. Back-to-back with travel. And they're 2-1 against the spread in those situations. They're actually a better ATS road team than they are home, 17-12 against the spread on the road only. That's much better than their home record. For the Nuggets, it's the first home game off of a West Coast road swing. Generally, we fade these teams coming home for the first time and add to it. The position they're in the West, got a home court spot right now in the playoffs, sitting at number 4. And I don't see the real interest here, especially if you think there would be interest. The fact that Murray and Caldwell Pope neither play kind of leads you to believe that we'll wait till the start of the second half to heat up again. The Denver Nuggets are 1-4 ATS in their last 5 games, haven't been playing well. And again, like I said in the previous analysis of the Clippers, that blowout that the Clippers lost to Minnesota could be a little bit demoralizing. The blowout loss that Denver suffered to Milwaukee could be a little bit demoralizing. I don't know that you expect an instant bounce back here from them at home off a road trip first time out. So I'm going to try Sacramento. They can score with anybody, Dan. Just score enough to hang within 5.5, and I'm good. Give me the Sacramento Kings as my dog, +5.5.
That's the dogs on the slate here tonight. For the boys, hop below in the comments and let us know the dogs that you're eyeing tonight as we talk a little best bet action. And Rob, I didn't mean to. It was just by design that I was throwing to you last every single time. So luckily for you, we have Professor Chris checking in the chat asking, anybody like the Rockets tonight? And it's a bit to do with what Rob Vino's eyeing for his best bet. So get that clock ready, Robert. And Rob, let people know what you got going tonight, what they can get with that great deal, and what we're eyeing for a best bet.
Yeah, in the NBA tonight, real quick, 4% best bet up and available right now. There's a pair of college games as well. It's going to be added to, guys. It'll be 5 plays in all 4 this evening, so check it out, WagerTalk.com. Again, I do this quite often recently, suck up to our producer, Robert Harris Jr., but I'm going to play the Houston Rockets team total over 110.5. It'll buy me an extra 10 seconds here, Dan. That's what I do it for. Over 110.5 team total here. Happened the other night against the Knicks. It was 109. A wrong foul called at the end of the game actually prevented getting lucky and covering that number in overtime. The NBA admitted the foul was wrong, and it ended up 105, 103, I think. But real quick here, Memphis, as dismantled as they are now personnel-wise, just doesn't have enough to hang on with Houston's pace, and they don't have enough rebounding on the offensive end to stop Houston's main goal, which is defensive rebound and then push. I think 110.5 is an easy number to get over here, so that's the way I played it. Rockets over 110.5.
The delayed buzzer, the suck up worked. Well done, Rob Vino. He's looking for the team total over for the Rockets there. Bryan, let's get your thoughts. Best bet on the board. We'll reload the clock for you and also let us know what people can get with that sweetheart of a deal.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you didn't go right to me for the best bet segment because it would have been a little awkward. I like Denver in the first half, which goes against Rob's Sacramento play, but we could both cash just like we had on our little minor disagreement with the total. Denver can cover first half. Obviously, Sacramento can cover full game. Look, I do not like this Sacramento team. I think they're overrated. They're 10th in both point differential and net efficiency in the Western Conference. They're not as good as their 30-23 straight up record. Only win in the last 5 games was against who? This Denver team. I know, guys sitting out signals that maybe the Nuggets don't care too much about getting revenge, but I just think the Nuggets could come out strong here, guys. Only 1 3-game losing streak all year for them. They're 21-4 at home, outscoring teams by 5.5 points per game before halftime at home. That's the key number. I think they get off to a strong start, and then we'll see what happens in the second half. But Denver first half is the best bet for the show. I got 4 plays, $29 right now on my page. I went 4-0 last Wednesday in hoops. There you go.
So Wednesday might be the day for our man Bryan Power is what he's saying. But check him out over at WagerTalk.com. And guys, it's apropos that the Valentine's Day edition has disagreements that end amicably and end with cashing for all parties involved. It's almost poetic. Andy, you're not going to have to disagree with anybody here for your best bet because you're going about a game that no one has talked about here on the show. You're going with a player prop in true Andy Lang form. So tell people what else you got rocking, like those incredible lacrosse plays that you have loaded over at your page, and let people know your best bet tonight.
Yeah, we got lacrosse best bet that just went up, and we have NHL for tonight. I bring up NHL because we are hitting 65% this season, 3-0 this week. It's been my best season in NHL by far. We're just raking in the profits. So great way to build a bankroll, even if you don't normally bet on hockey. The money spends the same. If you're not watching the games, it's even better. You make money while you're not watching the games. So grab that NHL best bet up at WagerTalk.com. Going with Victor Wembanyama over 1.5 made 3-pointers, getting great juice on a play that keeps hitting night after night after night. He's gone over in 5 straight games. He's hit this in 17 out of his last 22 games. He's gone over in 7 straight away games, and Dallas gives up 13 made 3-pointers per game. Like Victor Wembanyama tonight, bummer that we get the All-Star break to kind of break things up because this is something I'd love to keep playing, but maybe we'll come back to it after the All-Star break. But for tonight, over made 3-pointers.
That's Andy Lang. And yeah, as he said, you don't have to watch the games to cash him. And one of Andy's specialties is finding players not to have a point. So I would suggest not watching the games and just cashing on those and save yourself the agita of any time that they have the puck in their stick, having to sweat a point. But man, the record speaks for itself. Let's do a quick little recap for the folks on the way out. You see them there. Rockets team total over the 110 for our man Rob Vino. Bryan Power going with the first half for the Nuggets, the 2.5 as the power couple disagreeing all show long at odds and best bets, but both can cash. We got a nice car ride home. And Wembanyama going over the 1.5 3-pointers made, shooting from distance. The big man, says Andy Lang. Guys, it was a pleasure filling in here on the way out. We remind you, hit that like button, hit that little bell so you never miss any of the great shows, whether you're stuck with me filling in, or you have the great Joe Ranieri, who will be back tomorrow here on the NBA Tip-Off Show. For Brian Power, for Andy Lang, for Rob Vino, I'm Dan Alexander, and you don't have to go anywhere. Stay right here on this channel to get all the tools you need to bet all the sports you love, only a click away. That's WagerTalk TV. Best of luck, everybody.